Let's get this show on the road.
Did you change your lighting?
My lighting changes every time.
Maybe your skin just looks really good. It looks good today.
No, it doesn't. Look at
No, no,
it.
yeah, I see the
Look
obvious. Yeah, at
at
the
it.
bottom of your chin, but the
Look
rest of
at
your
it.
face and cheek and forehead look really good. Again, I
Uh,
think it's a lighting thing because nobody's skin
no, it
looks
is.
perfect.
It is. Yeah, it's just a lighting thing.
I'll
It's
say
just
that's
like
probably.
today happens to be sunny, and combined with it being sunny, I have the like lamp on nearby, and like it's just
Mhm.
the right combination of things.
It did take me way too long to realize that about photos. Where I'd be like, man, people in pictures just have like such amazing skin. It's like, nah, it's lighting, and in the modern day,
It's
it's editing.
lighting in the. I was gonna say it's lighting in uh and obviously just fancy algorithms.
That's where like
I'm
it's
assuming
always like
you're
way
all
before we did all
recording
that
and
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I got my recording started.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, like, what's the our Instagram reality? You know, classic, classic stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But I like way before that, like what? Because we were in. It is funny talking to people now. Where like, when did you get Facebook?
Middle school.
Yeah,
I think eighth grade?
we were like that
Question
first
mark.
wave. It had to have been because I was in. Yeah, I was in seventh grade, so it must have
I
like
mean, that's.
definitely everybody had it by
I
high school.
also remember my Google account comes from seventh grade, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna like do my first name backwards." Or, it's like my Gmail address is stupid. I'm not gonna give it out here, but it's my Gmail address is really dumb. And then like it gets to the point of I need to be a professional adult. And like this is the email address I've been using.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I can't read this aloud to somebody on the phone and them take me seriously. And so it's like, well, guess I'm making a new account somewhere. And it's like I don't want to have two of the same, provider or whatever. So like let me just go make an Outlook account or whatever.
Yeah.
Or no, it was I already had a Microsoft account because I was already playing Xbox at the time, right? And so it's like, okay, well, let me just make an email address with this, right? Like,
Mhm.
I already have this account, this sign in. Let me just add an email onto it. And I was like, damn, that's convenient.
Dude, I
Uh,
was so lucky with that because, as you know, like I have a million different usernames across the different games and accounts and stuff. Like I never. It wasn't until very, very recently that I started consistently using the same username everywhere. But like for years and years and years, it was random. But my email address, the one that I still use the same one today, and mine is relatively normal.
yeah, no, it's like
It's
I
literally my
actually
name
I
on my
know
right ear.
exactly what it is. Because by the way, everybody, this is Jetpack Swords, a Casual Games podcast. I'm your host Greg, and I'm joined by your other host Packy. And we're not joined by James today, and that's why today is a hashtag special
Boo.
episode, hashtag technology edition. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen with that. And the reason for this is um, your email address came up recently because the reason this might be a hashtag special episode technology edition is I just got a new phone. I'm playing with all the things. Um, and one of the things I was playing with was keyboards and Gboard and going through the settings there. And like one of the settings in Gboard is do you want to use your contacts for autocomplete suggestions? And I was like, sure, why not? I'll try this out.
Oh.
I was like, I guess it's just going to do the names and stuff. And like, I was like, but what if it does email too? And so I start typing your email, and it sure enough, it suggests, or I start typing your name, and it's sure enough, it
Yeah.
starts typing your email address as an autocomplete suggestion. It's like, hey, oh, that's pretty convenient. Like, that's pretty nice. Like,
Really? I thought that would be annoying. Because like, how many times are you gonna type my name and then you're never ever gonna want it to be my email address.
yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Like, there's a good chance I end up turning it off. But like, well, because also I don't. So what about like or like addresses, right? Like it could be super nice for addresses. I don't know how
I
good
think
it is.
addresses and
Like,
people's names. Those are the two. Because like that,
yeah.
you're always if you're typing that out to start, you're almost always going to be that thing. Except for names, but
Well,
names is just like nice because names it never does names.
and also it's so it does names, but it will only do names after you've typed the name like 18,000 times. And
Yeah.
so like I feel like it's really only useful for like the first 10 times you type a name or you type an email address or you type a whatever. Because like I mean, like anywhere I go, like if I go to like, sign into a website, which believe me, I've been doing a shit ton of because again, new phone. Um, Obviously the keyboard's like after two times, it's like, you've typed this email address before. I know it. Like separate from even autofill, like literally just normal keyboard autocomplete. It's like, I think you're typing an email address.
Okay.
And so, it'll suggest that. But so I don't know. I feel like the contact thing is kind of interesting because it's just like, let's just make it so that it doesn't suck balls the first five times before it learns. And it's just like, okay, sure, why not? I'll give it a go. Um, I guess I should give a little bit of context with this too, also. Um, and also I did the jankiest transition here. We were talking about, names and email addresses and accounts and I use that to transition this. But so a little bit of context, a little background. So I had a iPhone 12 Pro Max. I've been on iOS for I don't know 6, 8 years, a while at this point, very long time. Multiple times in there, I have like tried other mobile OSs, but and here's the key: I would never get rid of my iPhone when I did this, right? So like I would buy a cheap phone either with a good deal or like from someone who was selling it, right? So like one time it was like my brother was getting rid of his old Windows phone, and so I was like, oh, I'll just like give you like 25 bucks for it or whatever, and like use that. Or like one time it was, I think it was like the Pixel 3A. Google was like, oh, if like trade in, you get this much. And so I had like a really, really old phone, but like Google was still willing to give me like, I don't know, like solid amount of money for it. And then it was combined with like $100 store credit or something. So it was like, okay, well, let's just like, I'll trade in the phone and then like I'll use the store credit to like buy a Google Home and like, I'll get the Pixel 3A and I can just like kind of have that to play around with. And like, I like to like tell myself that like I'll do side projects and shit too, and like, oh, it'll be nice to have an Android device to develop on or test on, which is not fucking true at all. But like, I like to tell these are all justifications. I'm
I mean, you
jumping through
genuinely
the
did
mental
that with the
hoops.
Windows Phone. Which, by the way, I'm so curious if people listening, like anyone besides the two of us, know what a Windows Phone is because it was such a short-lived endeavor by Microsoft.
Well, the funny thing is like specifically the second attempt at Windows Phone, right? Because like
Yeah.
they made a first attempt in like the BlackBerry era, right? If I recall correctly. And then
Oh,
like
I didn't know about
they
that
made a
one.
second attempt in the,
Actually, no, I
Android
did.
iOS era.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like the first attempt was like very Palm Pilot-y, right? Like, like esque thing. And I think it obviously did not do well. Arguably probably did even worse than the, second attempt during the iOS Android era. But yeah, that'll be interesting. I'd be curious to see if anyone who listens to this, which I think at this point we have like 3 or 4 regular listeners. I don't know. And it should not surprise any of you all that I use a lot of Microsoft products at this point, and so it should not surprise you that I used a Windows phone. Um, which by the way, I actually really liked. I actually thought it was like very solid.
It was
Like it,
so
it,
sad when they went away because like it was
it,
really
it
just nobody developed for it, but it was otherwise like
yeah.
a very usable, very accessible phone because they were so inexpensive, and they just killed it. And the
And
OS
the
was good.
OS was good. It was
Yeah,
good. Like it worked well.
worked
And
well with
like
Windows.
the basic, like the live tile aspect was just like widgets
Hmm.
before widgets were popular. And it was just like, we'll just have a tile that shows you the weather and like whatever. And like, this is your weather app. And it's just like, it was literally widgets before widgets were
And I
popular,
still
right?
think it's
Like,
better than what widgets were, like what widgets are.
I think that depends on the widget. I think there are a lot of really shitty widgets. I think there are a lot of really good ones though, right? Like
They're
that do
definitely ones
not
that are way
pervert
more
your live
capable
tile
than they were.
aspect.
Like the financial app widgets are like something that Windows Phone never could have done, and those are really really good.
I was gonna say that is, I feel like exactly something like live tile could do of like literally just like showing the current price of a stock, right?
Oh
Whereas
yeah, not
like,
the like current stock prices, but like Fidelity and I believe most Chase, anybody who does financial services, they will show your account information if you give them the permissions to do so.
to be fair, I feel like still live tiles could do that. I feel like where live tiles fell apart, and not even necessarily fell apart, because again, like they could have improved them, they could have made them better, they would have if they
Yeah,
hadn't killed the entire platform. is like, and where widgets kind of shine is interactability, right? So like, let me show you this thing and then let you like click on a thing in the widget to do the thing. Whereas like live tiles were like, let me show you the thing and then you can click on it and I'll launch the app and take you to the spot where
Yeah,
you
it's
could do the
purely
thing.
informative. It wasn't
But you
interactive.
can't, yeah, you couldn't do the thing in the spot, right? Like that was where
Yeah.
like, but again, like I feel like live tiles were definitely around before widgets at least got popular. I don't know if they were like, I'm sure Android has had widgets for a very long time at this point, but
Oh, they've been around. I mean, they were some rudimentary version of them was around when Windows phones were out. Just wasn't nearly as
yeah,
good as LiveTile.
I was gonna say, and again, I think they sucked, right? Like, and
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
I feel like they still
Again, it was
like
like
are
the
kind
weather was the only
of
usable
it's hit or
one.
miss. Yeah, like it's
The
still kind of hit or
classic.
miss. Like there are some nice ones, and there's a lot of shit, right? Actually, like a nice one, and actually, I'll get to this later. Let me finish my little background here. Um, but so would always keep my old phone, my old iPhone, and so like I'd use the thing. I'd be like, this is fun, but like these things or whatever, and like more importantly, like I'd have like,
Hey, this is
well,
so weird.
especially because like
Sorry.
at the
Somebody just rung my
go
doorbell.
ahead,
I won't be back in 3 seconds.
go ahead. Hi, listeners. Hi. Can I tell you all something that Packy already knows, so he's not missing out? I don't know. But I am very curious to see who else has used the Windows Phone. Because again, like, pretty solid. And like, I don't know. It's disappointing that they died. Not surprising. It's also disappointing. Ah, fuck. I'll wait till Packy's back. Insert elevator music here. When you're listening on Spotify, I might legitimately insert elevator music here. That'd be fucking hilarious. I'm gonna do that. Hashtag gonna do that in the edit. Probably not. We'll see. I'm drinking Red Bull.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, Red Bull sugar free. Has
Sorry about
10
that.
calories in this 8.4 ounce cans. Ah, he's back. I can stop rambling to the audience.
Yeah, you're just that is freaking. You can't pull out your phone because you're on a podcast, so you reverted all the way back to early 2000s, reading the shampoo label tactics. You had a Red Bull can in front of you, and so you just started
Red Bull
reading
sugar
it.
free has 8.4, it's 8.4 fluid ounces and it's 10 calories. Wow, that's
You just
like
go over the phone
yes.
thought. Oh, sorry, I interrupted.
Jesus
Please
fucking
continue.
Christ. No, no. I mean, go ahead. Was it an interesting doorbell ring, or was it
Yeah.
not interesting?
How fast was it? It was like, yeah, it's the classic, right? So, hey, I am very grateful to be
Was it door to
the
door? Was it door to door salesman?
exactly. And the one benefit of being in a
Yeah,
rental is like someone comes up with home services, and I'm like, I'm renting. I don't control that buy.
that's fair. That is convenient. I always
And let
feel
me tell
awkward
you,
to.
doing that now, I'm just going to continue doing that once I own a home. There's no
That
way I
is
change.
fucking smart. I should. Holy shit! I'm gonna start doing that.
Actually, like because it
I'm gonna start
instantly
doing
ends the
that. Yeah.
conversation. Like they will not ask another follow up question. Like they know you don't control the money, and they instantly walk away.
That is fucking genius plan. I'm gonna start doing that. Anyways, back to background. So I would buy really cheap phones, keep my really high end phone as whatever, because like, oh, this is just a cheap phone for fun. I'm just playing around with it, right? And so inevitably, like something would frustrate me, or it would be slower, yada yada yada, X Y Z, right? And so I would always end up switching back, and this kind of always pissed Susie off because like she'd be like, I I know you're never gonna switch. Like you never take it seriously. Yada yada
Susie
yada.
would be
You
all
know?
annoying being right
Exactly.
for
Like
years.
fucking say like she was never wrong, right? But anyway, so the reason so the thing that's special about this time is I'm getting rid of my old phone. I still have it, but I'm gonna like ship it off this week. And so like the only reason I'm doing this is like there's realistically like three things that like led to this decision. Arguably like a fourth kind of smaller one, but like really it's three things. Is like one, uh my brother Steve also switched from iPhone to Android. And so that basically pushed the number of chats I was in that were iMessage um, down, and the number of chats that would be RCS if I were to switch up to, like they swap places, right? and obviously I have a number that are, cross-platform and therefore they're MMS, but like it's probably like 40% RCS at this point, and it would have been like, 30% iMessage or something, something like that, right? And then the other 30% is MMS because they're mixed. So like that was like part one of it. It was like, okay, like that was arguably a big piece of, what I liked about iOS. The arguably the bigger one. And because like, so the last time I tried my Pixel 3a, the biggest like thing for me was, honest to God, Reddit. Like I really liked my Reddit app, and I was having a really hard time adjusting to like any of the Reddit apps on Android. And like I tried all of them, right? And I just like none of them scratched the itch for me that Apollo did. Like Apollo was such a good app. And then Reddit just fucking took it out back and murdered it. And so it's like, all right, the like biggest friction point I had the last time is now gone, right? So like that's just not a fucking thing. Okay, so that's gone. So that's two. And then three is I was like probably gonna get a new iPhone this year. I was waiting for Apple to make one with USB-C because like thank God the EU has some fucking testicles and they're capable of being a like competent legislating body and like, forcing a company to not be a piece of shit and put USB-C on their phone like every other fucking phone on the goddamn market so that, people don't have to buy like it's just annoying. I want to use Susie's cable, right? Like I don't want to be like, hey, can you pass me? I want to be like, hey, can you pass me the cable instead of, oh shit, I can't use your cable. Let me go to another room and get mine. Because it's fucking dumb. And like, thank God the EU is like competent legislating body, and like the U.S. government's a piece of shit, and they can't do anything. Um, I love you, U.S. government. FBI, please don't put me on a watch list. I don't hate my country. I love my country. I really do. I just think our government's incompetent. There's a difference between being a crazy radicalist and thinking our government's incompetent. They're two very different things.
We're screwed. Nobody
Most of our country thinks our government's incompetent.
Criticizes the government. They're going for you now.
They fucking are. I mean, that's yeah, probably.
Well, no, there's entire podcasts that do it week by week and go longer than we do, and exclusively the content is what is the government doing wrong.
Okay, and to be fair, you don't think the FBI listens to every single one of those fucking things?
I don't.
They fucking listen to every single one of those goddamn things.
They don't.
They probably do.
They don't.
Okay, at a minimum, they probably run it through some transcription service and then scan the transcription for keywords, right?
See, that is
at
feasible.
A fucking minimum.
That is realistic.
There's 0% chance they don't do that. Like, or the NSA or somebody. Somebody is doing that.
Because that's what the NSA was doing. And that was their whole argument. And what I'm saying, because the government's been very transparent and like, we're not above listening to your conversations. Please don't put that in your mind. But more, you all talk too much and there's too many of you for us to listen to all of it. We simply don't have the manpower.
But like podcasts or like, that's not even just like, they don't even have to do anything sneaky for that shit, right? Like you're putting that out in the fucking open, like available to everybody. Yeah. And it's also like a lower number. Like that's so easy to do in comparison to like listening to every phone call or like every street cam conversation recorded, right? Like that's fucking infeasible, right?
I just think about the number of employees you would need. Just scroll through Apple. I don't know where. If you could just see like recently posted episodes posted to date for podcasts only on only one platform, like it's got to be thousands, and then each of them is like a half hour to an hour. Like there's just so much
but again,
on a daily basis.
Running them through some like speech to text thing, and then there's no way they don't do that.
I think
like if they don't do that, then the FBI should fucking hire me so that like I can do that for them because that's fucking obvious. Like,
well, they might not be allowed to anymore because the NSA got into a bit of a.
Again, it's not like it's private. Like it's literally public. Like you're literally putting that out there publicly. Like there's no like sketchy like. Listening to something that you didn't explicitly grant access to, or like no backdoor. Like it's literally just like.
But it's just something that the public doesn't like. Shit. So they typically try to do things that aren't going to cause an uproar, and then again they got into trouble for it with private calls. And then number two, one of the outcomes when we looked into all that, they had all the congressional hearings, was that it did not net much for the amount of time, money, and effort that they put into it. So I imagine. That is a much more likely culprit for like they just would kill programs like that. They still, I'm sure, do targeted surveillance and will come through your podcast if they think you're a risk.
Again, if the topic of your podcast is the U.S. government sucks balls, I feel like they're probably going to do that for you. Like pretty easy. like, saying like Google can transcribe my voicemails for me. Like, sure, the FBI can transcribe a podcast and, you know, be like, keyword.
So sure they can
um,
listen to whatever podcast the New York Times and MSNBC are putting out themselves. They might just naturally listen to it.
but it's we just get so fucking sidetracked. Shout out to you, Ricardo, homie. uh, he was just laughing. He was making fun of me for my sidetracks the other day. But yeah, so I was waiting for the USB-C iPhone, and that's supposed to come out this year. And I was looking forward to it. I was going to get it. But then, Samsung released their new phones, and then all the, the other two things happened, right? The my brother switching, and actually not, he didn't just switch. He was like, I got a great deal. I was like, I should go look at the deals, okay. So I go look, and it's like, so I got the S23 Ultra, which is the replacement for the Note line. It is Samsung's highest end phone that is not the Fold. And arguably it's higher end than the Fold. It's just the Fold has the premium because it's the Fold, right? Like, and it's the one that has the pen in it, which I don't give a shit about the pen. I would have preferred to like spend $50 less and not have the pen, but like whatever. It's how it worked out.
Stylus?
And yeah, baby. And actually, I can. You know what? I'll tie it back into our normal topic.
Never. It's
video
so
games.
weird. I will never not associate the stylus with the DS. Like I can't. Whenever I see one, I always think of the DS. Why? Why do they give you one? What is the point?
So I can do this. So I can scribble on my screen. So that when I am playing Remnant and I come across a puzzle that has symbols, I can take out the pen and jot down the symbols on the screen real quick and then continue on with the game. And then when I get to the actual point where I have to enter in the symbols, I can just go quickly check my notes. It's actually like, I was like, damn, that's kind of cool. Like that's the only thing I found that like I could not do better with not a fucking pen. Right, like that's the only thing I have found.
I'm sure there's somebody out there who's like, "This is so nice."
Like 100%. Like lots of people love it. I like I said, I would pay less money to not have the pen, but I got the pen because it's how it worked out. And the reason it worked out the way is so they gave me, it's in the phone, like it's part of the phone.
That's what I was thinking. Like, if that just came with it.
Yeah, exactly. And you just scribble on that.
That makes sense.
It's actually like pretty cool. Like they did a pretty good job. Yeah, so I think it's MSRP $1,200, and there was like a $200 off for like, I don't know if you like already have a Samsung account or some shit. It was fucking weird. Or if like your company gets an employee discount, I think that's the other way to get the $200 off on it. And then they offered me $600 for my old phone. And then, which is again key going back to like, I never got rid of my old phone. Like that's key to the story is they're offering me $600 for it. So $200 off, $600 for my phone. So $1,200 minus $800, $400, and there's like something where we got 12% cash back. So like, for all intents and purposes, we're looking at like $360 or so kind of out of pocket for it, right? And I was just like, that's a really good deal, right? Like I can't pass it up. I like before I do this, I go look up like Apple's trade-in values, and it's like $460 currently for my phone for the current phone, and so I'm like, okay, but so that means that when the new phone comes out, which is the one I would get, it would drop to like, the previous gen. So I'd look at that price and it's like, oh, that's only $300. And so like, oh, Apple would probably only give me $300 for my phone for the one that I want. And like Samsung is giving me $600 and there's the $200 off. Like, and like my brother switched and like more of my messages are RCS now than were iMessage before I switched. And like, fuck it. Let's do it. Let's pull the goddamn trigger, like, let's just do it. And it was like kind of, oh, and actually there's one like other, like not actually important, but like kind of important piece is so like I had an Apple Watch before and I liked it. Like I wasn't a huge, like super crazy user of it or whatever, but like I still liked having it. It was still nice. And that was another thing that whenever I tried the Pixel 3a, it just like, I missed having that. Right. And someone at work was selling a Fitbit Sense 2, which is one of their smarty watch ones. It is a color screen. It's a color touch screen, right? So it is kind of a smartwatch, but it's definitely still fitness tracker for a smartwatch second. But they were selling it for like, instead of like $300 MSRP, they were selling it for like Well, I think initially they like asked 150 for it and like no one was biting. And like eventually like they got all the way down to like $70 or something, I think. And I was like, okay, $70, like that's cheap enough. And so like I got the phone for like 360. I got the Fitbit Sense 2 for like $70. And so I was like, that's like this is good. This is a good price. Like things it's good to try new things. And so that's why I got this new phone. And that's why this is hashtag special edition or, hashtag special episode technology edition. Um, and it is different. It's not bad. It's not worse. And some parts are worse, but it's just different. And it's fucking weird. And it's taking getting used to. And
I mean,
like,
how long have you had it? Like a week and a half now?
not even a week and a half. So I got it Friday. And then I used it some Friday, but not like a ton. So I didn't have like a case and stuff for it yet. And
For
then
context,
I
y'all,
got
that's
my
about
case for
five
it
days ago.
Saturday. Exactly.
So
Right. Like it's not we're
yeah,
not
how long have you been
talking
using it?
locked
You've
up.
been using an i like you've always used an iPhone, right? Like that's your main phone since the very
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course
No,
it's gonna
I
feel
mean it
weird.
like
That
well
review is
but
pointless. Discard that opinion.
but
Anybody who heard
okay,
that and was
okay.
like, "Oh, I'm not sure I'll switch," it's just different. There's no value in the opinion for the first 2 weeks.
So yes, but also some things are worse than let me so I can say some things that are straight up worse, right? Like just 100% worse, like there's no question about it. Like um battery life is somehow worse. I don't fucking understand it because like battery life tests and stuff, they do things. They're like, oh, they're the same, or like the S23's Ultra is better, and like it has a bigger battery. It should be better. And like, let me fucking tell you, in real world scenarios, it is not. I don't care if in a perfect lab test it is better. In the real world scenario of what I am doing, it is not fucking better. Like it should be the same, or actually it should be better. I would accept the same. It is just straight up worse. And like I don't know if it is like Samsung's janky as fuck auto brightness, which by the way, that's another thing that's worse. It's just janky as fuck. It doesn't work well at all. I don't know how auto brightness is a problem in 2023, but like Samsung's is not good. Like it's just not. Like it's supposed to learn. And again, like you said, maybe it'll get better. Maybe it will learn. But like I'm gonna go ahead and like throw a limb out there. Like, I was gonna say that like go out on a limb that like I bet their fucking auto brightness thing kind of blows stick. Like it's kind of my guess. And I wouldn't be surprised if like the learning actually makes it worse. Like straight up, I wouldn't be surprised if the learning makes it worse. And maybe I'll be wrong in a week or two. I don't know. I mean, uh, my context for this also is like Susie does not use auto brightness on her phone because she doesn't think it works well, and she's had a Samsung phone for forever, right? And so like that is also kind of the basis of this opinion. Like I think their auto brightness just sucks. But so like maybe like my phone is just brighter than it was before on average, and so it's burning through more battery, which is like hella actually serious like use of the battery. Or like maybe it's like background things, right? Like I like my iPhone obviously like I didn't have a Mac, so like it wasn't like syncing messages to my Mac or anything. Whereas like I have Google Chat messages for web set up here, and so like it's proxying message there. So like there's probably more things going on in the background. I don't know. Again, like at the end of the day, real world usage, not I'm in a lab and I pegged the brightness to minimum or whatever, and like I'm just clicking through apps. Like real world usage, like the battery life is worse. Like I don't know why it is, but it is, and it's really frustrating. Um, and it probably won't be. It also might just be like I'm using it more because it's new. I don't know.
Very
Maybe.
likely a
I'm
part
not
of it,
sure.
especially if you're like constantly having to
Let's see.
set stuff up.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm going through all the things. It's like I'm switching apps a bunch, and like there's probably a fair bit of like this. And so maybe like again, maybe in like 2 weeks it'll be the same. I don't think it'll be better,
Definitely
despite
gonna
the
be better
battery
if
being
it's not
bigger.
already
But
not already like at least the same, if not better.
yeah, exactly. And so like that's kind of disappointing. That's whatever. Like some other things that are worse is just like I again I don't know how hard this is true. And there's two factors to this. I somehow, despite Android being like the customizable OS in the mobile operating system world, I somehow think it is harder to use non-Google things on Android than it is to use non-Apple things on iOS. And like, I will fight somebody who tells me that is wrong because I am pretty sure it's fucking right. Like,
Well, depends
there are
what, right? It's always different integrations work differently, but
Yeah,
I mean, I own mostly Google stuff for that
exactly.
reason.
That's the thing. Is so many people. It's like I say this to them. They're like, "What are you talking about? I've never had this problem." And I'm like, "Okay, well, where are your contacts stored?" I'm like, they're like, "Oh, they're in Google Contacts." Well, I'm like, "That's why you didn't have the fucking problem." Like again, like it's like if you are on the happy path is just as good as iOS, if not better, in some cases. But as soon as you try to use the non-Google thing on Android, like something is going to go wrong or be jank in some way, shape, or form that like I never had this problem on iOS, right? Like whether it be I was using a different keyboard or I was using a password autofiller or like again, contacts. Like contacts was a big one, right? Like my contacts are in Outlook because like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, like I started using an Outlook account for email because my fucking Gmail address is stupid as shit 'cause I made it in middle school. And so I put my contacts in Outlook because that's where I send emails from. And on iOS, that is not a fucking problem at all. It just works. There's only one thing, and it's there are my contacts, and everything's kosher. On Android, it's like you literally cannot turn off Google contacts. You straight up cannot. You can stop them from syncing, but you cannot turn them off. And so, like, even though I've merged duplicates and stuff and like done all the things, there are still certain UIs I go to search for something and I will see two contacts for a person. And I'm just like, why the fuck is this a problem? Like it's just so unbelievably dumb that like again, if you're on the happy path, like it works perfectly fine. And then as soon as you try to use the non-Google thing, it like somehow gets worse. And again, it somehow gets worse than using the non-Apple thing on iOS, despite iOS being the like more closed down ecosystem, which is why it was like super surprising to me. And again, like this all goes out the window as soon as you try to do something that Apple doesn't let you do at all, right? Like you cannot customize your home screen on Apple right, or on iPhone. Like that's just not a thing you can do. Period. The end. Right. But like at least on the things that like you can do on both, it is easier to do the non-system platform company thing on iOS than Android in my experience, which is again actually completely caught me by surprise. Like I did not think it was going to be that way at all.
You
I
really think
straight
about
up
it,
thought it would be
it
the other
makes
way.
some sense, right? In that, like, Apple's just made it, they just locked down every path except the paths that they vetted, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
you're not
and
going
the
to have an
paths that they
experience on
vetted,
Apple
they're
unless they
like
know
they
it's at
know what
least
it's going to be.
decent.
Yeah, no, on it, I think it's a big part of it. Like,
Whereas Google's like, do anything. You can have our like our ecosystem, which is awesome, but like if other developers want to like try and integrate their stuff with us, we won't stop you.
yeah,
And it's
no,
it's just
and
one of
so
the few Apple's like failing in marketing. Like they really are genuinely pretty good at it now, but they just will permanently be known as hostile to
yeah.
anything non-Apple.
Well, and like 8 years ago, right? Like you could not use a random password autofiller on iPhone, or like you
Yeah.
could not use a third-party keyboard on iPhone 8 years ago, right? But like today, those paths, those experiences are better on iPhone in my experience. Like as soon as you try to veer from the default, they're better on iPhone, which is I think it's exactly what you said. It's the options are less, but the options are better, right? Like you have less total options, but they are better there, which is just kind of interesting. And like one of my other frustrations is, and again, this is 100% a case of like, I'm not using the default thing, right? Like I want to use a different password manager, right? And so apparently, like I open up, I'm signing through all my apps. I get to Discord. Discord has a little disclaimer on their thing. It's like, oh, are you using a password manager? Like, go make sure your password manager has like, oh, and also, uh, my problem of non-Google things on Android is made worse by the fact that I have a corporate profile installed on my phone, which restricts what I can do, which is kind of interesting to notice. So in general, I actually feel like the work profile on Android is really good, like better than like Apple has very equivalent things with like they integrate it with D&D and sleep and D&D being do not disturb and sleep and like there's a work option. You can hide home screen pages based on like whether you're in work mode or not and like stuff like that. And like it works pretty well, but like honestly, I think the work mode or the work profile on Android is just simpler and honestly better other than the fact that my specific case is more restricted for me than it was when I was on iOS, right? Like I on iOS, like they had no control over what keyboard I used. Like that was it. I could use whatever keyboard I wanted. And on Android, I can use whatever keyboard I want on my personal profile, but as soon as I go to my work profile, I can only use allow listed keyboards. And the one I want to use is not in that list, right? Again, it's that case of like I'm going off the happy path, and it's just worse because I'm going off the happy path, right? Um, and like, so that's fine. I can accept that. It's like, okay, I'm in the work profile. I get that you have some control here. That's fine. What really has pissed me off, and I'm just gonna like have to get used to it, because like it's convenient to be able to have chat on my phone. And it's especially because I can turn off the work profile and disable notifications. Like I said, overall, it's fantastic. I actually really like the work profile on Android. I think it's great. But what pisses me off is when it bleeds into my personal profile. So back to the password autofill. Get to Discord. Hey, if you're using Password Manager, go give accessibility permission to this app. I'm like, okay, let me go give accessibility permission to my password manager. This option is restricted by your corporate profile. You cannot do this. Go fuck yourself. That's all I have to say. I'm like,
That's
why?
not Android's fault. That's Google's fault
No,
specifically.
it is, right? So here's the problem. It's so like I'm annoyed that like yes, my company profile is restricting this app from doing this thing. But what I am more annoyed by is the fact that Android is for some reason set up in a way that this is even required in the first place, right? Like, because the reason it's restricted is because, like, it's from what I can tell, it's basically just like a really, really powerful permission that, like, the app gets to do and see whatever the fuck it wants on your screen, right? And so, like, I can understand why the company does not want a third party app to be able to do and see whatever the fuck it wants on your screen at all times. Like, that's super reasonable. And so like I'm kind of more annoyed by the fact that like I have to do this thing at all, right? Like why is the password autofill system, you know, fragmented enough that like a special permission is needed, right? Like why is does the
That part makes
normal
sense, right? Like, because it has to be able to know when it's needed within any application, anywhere in your phone at any time.
look it works in most places, right? Like it really does work in most places. It's just that
Yeah,
like
it needs a
some
universal
places
awareness.
it doesn't, but like I don't know, like on iOS, the password manager worked everywhere and I didn't have to give it a special permission. It just worked everywhere, right? Like it was just like there wasn't a like it's like there's two tiers on Android. There's like the normal autofill service, and like that part works great. Again, happy path, everything's perfectly fine. And then it's like the for some reason, like 10% of apps are janky as fuck and they need some super powerful permission for the autofill to work. So, like, give it this thing. And it's like, why does that exist? Right? Like, that's my complaint is like, why are there these 10% of apps or whatever that, like, are in some weird jank state that the normal autofill service doesn't work? Like, it's just dumb. Like, I don't know. It's so frustrating. Again, like Android is just as good as iOS if you only use Google things or you only use Apple things on iOS, right? Like as soon as you try to do anything different, it seems to really fall apart, right? Like again, another example is I'm trying to get my home screen to like not be the same as it was, but like still be familiar, right? Like there are some things that I like. Like I like being so on iOS, it's you swipe to the left, which is swiping to the right, but getting your page to go to the left, obviously, right? Um, and you get your basically it's just a list of widgets, right? Like, and I like that. I like there's a list of widgets. And on Android, the default is a feed, and I quite frankly don't give a shit about the feed. I turn that shit off. Turn that shit off right away. Um, and on One UI, the Samsung launcher, it's kind of nice because you can set your home screen to be your second one. You can set like a one to the left of that. You can put widgets on that, but you can't scroll it, right? Like it's not an infinitely scrollable thing. So I'm like, okay, well let me go look at launchers because again, this is Android. This is the world of customizability. I can do whatever I want, right? So like, let me go find a thing. Let me go do whatever I want. Obviously, I have Outlook. I'm an Xbox guy. Let me install the Microsoft launcher, which to be honest, I thought would suck dick because like I think I tried it like 4 years ago and it sucked dick. And it was really good. Like it was better than Samsung's One UI launcher, which actually caught me by surprise. I was going into it with low expectations, but it caught me by surprise because it was really good. And one of the things it does is the left side is very much like iOS. It is a scrollable list of widgets. And obviously they populate that with a bunch of bullshit default Microsoft widgets that I don't care. But I could put normal widgets on that page and I can scroll them and it can be infinite. And I was like, great, I can have a page of widgets. That's fantastic. Um, and then they had pull down on the home screen to get to search, which is like Spotlight search on iOS, which is I really it was really convenient, right? It's just like I want to go to an app, I don't know where the app is. Let me just pull down, start typing instantly. Like you don't have to like go here, then click in the search bar. It's literally just one gesture, start typing. It's great. Microsoft Launcher had that. I was like, fantastic. Okay. App drawer, which by the way, love the app drawer on Android in general. Go to the app drawer. And like, so Samsung's is you go to the app drawer and you can only go left and right. That's it. It's pages left and right. And to go to the work profile, you have to click it. Microsoft Launchers was you have options. You can do pages left, right, or you can go to it and you can have an endlessly scrolling vertical list, or you can have grouped alphabetically, so like A, B, C vertical list. And like the fact that you have three options there instead of just the one is like, this is fantastic. I like the vertical one. I like going this and da, da, da. And then you could swipe left and right instead of clicking something to go to your work profile. It's like, this is just great. This is such a great thing. Here's where it falls apart. And again, this is where I question, it's like, this is, yes, admittedly because I have a work profile installed on my device. But again, I question why the fuck is this super special permission needed in the first place? So I'm not using the Microsoft Launcher anymore, despite me thinking it is better than the Samsung Launcher in every way except one. Samsung Launcher has stackable widgets, which is 10 out of 10. You can put 4 widgets in the same place or some number you could swipe between them. Great. It would almost replace my infinitely scrolling list of widgets that I like. Packy, you were just experiencing my tirade of my first 5 days of Android. It's fantastic.
I've lost you so long ago, but I'm willing to keep listening.
I love it. Thank you so much.
I just can't envision what you're talking about. I need to see the phone. Because especially the Microsoft Launcher, like I've never seen. And no, do not show this while we're doing an audio only podcast.
I'm not going to.
Sorry, it's more
you should install
for everybody else's benefit. He's on really camera, and he like leans back.
I think they all have their
anyways,
faults.
I'm not using it. The reason I'm not using it is because they have, again, it's super customizable. Look at all these great things. So like, let me customize which it's kind of dumb that this is not the default. So I have gestures on my phone. Fuck buttons. If you use buttons these days, you're living in the past. Go get gestures. Like buttons suck. Go get gestures. They're better. So Microsoft Launcher has, control for like what happens when you do the home gesture, right? And obviously like a sane person, I want that to bring up my app switcher like it does everywhere else in the fucking system. Because I'm not an insane person. Like, I appreciate that there's an option that they let you change that. But like, if you change that from like showing me my recent apps, like you're an insane person. Like, just go seek help, please, for the love of God. Anyways, I can't do that. Microsoft Launcher has it as an option. Try to set it as an option. Try to do it. Go enable accessibility permissions for the Microsoft Launcher app. I can't do that because my corporate profile doesn't allow that. Fuck you. Like, it's just, it's so frustrating. And again, like a lot of these frustrations are because of the work profile. And at the end of the day, I have decided that the benefit of having it outweighs the things that I am losing by not having it. And so I'm going to keep it. But it is still just very fucking frustrating.
Yeah, especially I've run into that too. I don't even use the work profile really anymore because of permissions issue. Especially like ours was even more restrictive. Like you could only have X apps, and yeah, you couldn't really do anything.
Well, so have you done it since they added the work profile specifically? Like, I think it's a relatively newish thing, and it's really good because it's like full blown. Right? Like, I think so, and it's like full blown, completely separate. Right, so like
no, I've done that. Where you just kick the switcher and like you can. It looks like you switch profiles on like a Windows computer or like any computer.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. No, I've done that. And again, it was more. I also don't think it was how they've done its fault. I really like that system specifically as well for all the same reasons you mentioned. But it was just the restrictions on like also doing other things on my phone while logged into the work profile. which felt really absurd when you have your personal devices all around you when you're
I was
doing
gonna say,
that.
like, well, and it's literally. I thought that was the whole point of the work profile is like their influence is contained to that,
Well, I
and
think
then like
it's
when it
conflating like some people who are using it who wanted to kind of the people who want to separate the work things they do on their personal device and people who have a work device. Like if you are a salesperson, especially like insurance, it resonates a lot. Like
it
you,
is
they
trying
gave
to
you a
kind of make
phone.
that blur that line, make it easier to
They
do
want to do it for both, and then
that
in the
thing
end,
on
like
your own
the
device.
people
Yeah.
who want more freedom are getting the people who would benefit from more freedom. The people who just want to use it as like a personal device with a work, profile to sign into just to do a couple things are the ones who suffer. Because if like given the
Yeah.
choice between the two, they're going to
Well,
lock
and
it
that's what
down
I want to
more.
do, right? Like, and I actually considered, I was like, maybe I'm going to use the things I want to use, and like maybe I'll like just get a work phone. And I was like, no, I'll suck it up. I'll use the Samsung launcher. Like, I won't have autofill in all of my apps. I'll just switch to the app, copy the password, and switch back like a fucking primitive. Like I'll do these things because like I don't want to carry a work phone around, and I don't like, and I appreciate being able to do the like, someone sends me a chat while like, I don't know, like I'm gonna turn off notifications, like, which actually I'd already done. Like I'd already turned off like Gmail/chat notifications at 6 p.m. Like that's a part of like Gmail/chat, which is fantastic. But like separately from that, I'm just gonna like full blown turn off the work profile. Honestly, like, but basically when I leave work, right? Like for the most part, which is like, it's gonna be so much better for me overall. But I still like being able to have it when like I'm not at a computer, but like maybe somebody asks me a question and like I can answer their question from my phone in like 30 seconds. And like it saves them, 20 minutes of waiting for me to finish taking my dog on a walk or something. Like it's just convenient, right? Like it's convenient to
Mm.
have it. And like I appreciate the fact that like you can have it for when it's useful and still just have a switch, a fucking kill switch, right? That's what it is. It is a literal kill switch of like it's dead. And I like that's why I really actually like the work profile. But yeah, the fact it's when it bleeds outside of the work profile into the rest of the phone is when it really starts to irritate me. Also, two-factor text codes. On iOS, they work everywhere. It's a thing, right? Like you get a two-factor text code, and no matter where you are, no matter what app, you can autofill it. The end. End of story. It's hit or miss on Android. It works
It's a
some
lot of
places and it
missing.
does.
It
Yeah,
misses a
it's a
lot.
lot of missing.
It's
It
got the
works in
copy
like
button there, which is nice, but it
I was
definitely
gonna
doesn't
say,
like
yeah,
one
like
step.
I was gonna say like 10% of the apps like it like autofills and it's like fantastic, and then like 10% of the apps it's like you have to give it permission to autofill, and like okay, fine, that's still like pretty good. And then like the other 80% is just like hit the fucking copy button, and then my fat ass fucking thumbs instead of hitting the copy button
Some of the
hit the
options don't even give you
notification, and then
paste.
it
Sometimes
goes
you
to
gotta
the
type it
thing.
out.
I'm just like, it's like, it's so close to being as good as what I had before, but just, it's not there. Like, just get it over the hump, get it the rest of the way, right? Like, it's so close. But all in all, like, I'm excited to, do new things on the phone. And cause like,
What
obviously,
fun things about it you like?
oh, I mean, I like a lot of it. Like I said, like, even though the pen is kind of stupid, I like being able to take it out and take notes while I'm playing a game or something like for a puzzle. Like that's actually super convenient, right? Like, and
Hmm.
RCS is really great at this point, right? Like 4 years ago, it was jank as fuck, and like nobody supported it, and now it's like pretty standardized, and like RCS works everywhere, and like RCS is end to end encrypted, and like it just works, and like
Hmm.
honestly, like I'm so glad I switched because like as I was doing it, I was really coming to realize like I hate I hate Apple's closed world ecosystem. I hate it. Like when I was in it, I loved it, but then the fact that like when I was switching, it was so difficult. It wasn't even like difficult, right? It was just like kind of difficult, but like it was still just like harder than it should have been. And like that's why like going forward, like it's kind of one of the reasons I'm not using as many Google things as well. Is like I don't want to be tied into a platform. I want as many things as I have to be like easily movable, like platform agnostic. And like I don't know, it's small things. It's like like FaceTime has like a web client now, and like my family can send me links if they want, like I can join in. Like that's fine. But like, I don't know, they could just release a fucking FaceTime app on Android. Like that'd be fucking cool. Like, I mean, like Skype
Yeah,
has an app on
FaceTime.
both platforms. Like Meet has an app on both platforms. Like, why isn't there a FaceTime app? You know, like come on.
I'm pretty sure you can video call other Android users. It's just the classic between platforms. They've just decided it's not going to natively work because they don't want it to. I do
Well,
need to press.
no,
We,
exactly
we
my
do have to
point.
pause there for today. I
Yeah,
gotta go. I got 15 minutes before I gotta go do something.
I mean, that was basically the end of it, anyways. Is Apple has a lot of things that keep you in there, and I actually, as I was doing it, I realized I really don't like this, and I don't want to do this again. Right? Like, I had an Apple Card. You can't access an Apple Card on Android. Fuck that shit.
You just screwed
Like,
yourself because now
so
you didn't realize all the things that you've grown accustomed to, nor the things that you were missing, and now you're forced to have that information. Even if you
yeah.
switched back, you would just know.
Well,
You're
and the thing is,
cursed.
I don't. Even if I do switch track, I will do things differently. Right? Like, there are
Mhm.
certain things I will not do. Like, I will never open an Apple Card account again or an Apple Savings account again, as long as that is only accessible on that device. The end. End of story. That's a deal breaker. But anyways, thank you everybody for listening to me rambling on about my new phone and mainly what I dislike about it. But really, I do really like a lot of stuff about it. It is really nice. I do really like my phone. It is a new toy, and I love playing with it. And I love having fun with it. And it is, for the most part, gets me there, especially with Apollo being dead. Fuck you, Reddit. Fuck you, Reddit. So fucking hard. Rip Apollo. Bye everybody.